If you've ever questioned whether you're buying too much, too often, it's probably a good idea to sit down and take a closer look at your potentially impulsive shopping habits. Today, I'll be breaking down 8 common signs that you might have an addiction to shopping, and I'll also be giving you some tips on what you can actually do about it. If you want to see more content teaching you all about mindful consumption, make sure you hit that subscribe button and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And before we actually dive into everything, I want to give a very important disclaimer. I am not a licensed mental health professional. I'm just somebody who thinks that style goes way beyond just what we wear, and I like to look into it and I like to pass all of my findings along to you guys. But I want you to know that if you feel like you need professional help with a shopping addiction, there is no shame in reaching out to a therapist. If it's affecting your livelihood, if you are going into debt because of it, or maybe you just are finding yourself spiraling when it comes to a shopping addiction, please reach out to a therapist. If anything, I just want this video to maybe help you understand or realize if you do have an issue with shopping, and then it's up to you to take the proper next steps to get the help that you need if it's on a severity level where you need an external professional to come in and help you. All of my sources for the information that you'll find in this video will be linked in the description box down below. And without further ado, let's get into it. So the first sign on this list that you might have some unhealthy shopping habits is if you are often walking away with more items than you were intending on buying. The buy typically starts with a simple intention, right? Like maybe you need a new shirt for a presentation coming up at work, or maybe it's as simple as just replacing your toothbrush or replenishing your toothpaste or your laundry detergent. But somehow, whether it's online or in store, you end up with a shopping cart full of things that you never really intended on buying. Now, I think this behavior stems from a couple of things, but I know that for the past, at least for me, it often came from this treat yourself mentality, or it's this like, well, I'm already here, so I might as well just browse around and see, what they have. And this is especially something that I was guilty of when it came to online shopping, because those free shipping minimums will get you. And I would often find myself looking for other items to add to my cart just to meet the free shipping minimum and save the, $10 on shipping or whatever it was. Nowadays, I just pay for the shipping. Like for me, it's not worth filling my cart with a bunch of things that are truly not going to serve me. So I will just pay the 10, 15 bucks or whatever and just eat the shipping costs to avoid that. Feeling a wave of either guilt or regret after making a purchase is another common sign that you might have a shopping addiction or just unhealthy habits when it comes to shopping. Shopping can be an emotional roller coaster, especially if you don't have a great relationship with it, because you feel all this excitement when you're going to pick out the item or you're shopping online or whatever, and then you buy it, you get that hit of dopamine, and afterwards, that's when reality sets in, right? It's like, oh, I didn't actually need this, or maybe like, oops, I couldn't actually afford this, or whatever the case may be. And over time, these feelings of guilt can really compound, and they can make you feel powerless, especially if the same cycle is happening over and over and over again. Another sign is that if sales or limited time offers or flash deals or anything like that are often triggering you to shop. I feel like these things trigger this emotion of, I have to get this now or I'm gonna miss out. And before you know it, your cart is full of a bunch of items that are truly not going to serve you, but you just feel like you need them because they're on sale. And really all of this comes down to marketing, which is so psychological, and brands are really, really good at making things feel urgent and almost giving you a sense of FOMO if you don't actually participate in the sale and you don't buy these items that, again, aren't truly going to serve you. And just to be clear, you guys, like all of the things I'm talking about are all things that I have personally experienced myself. And honestly, sometimes I still do. Like, this is a constant battle for me to kind of remove that trigger in my brain of like, I'm bored, I need to go shopping, or like, there's a sale, I need to go shopping. So I just want you to know that if you're watching this, I fully empathize with you. And the point of this video is just to pass along some information that I have, and hopefully it will help you out. Hiding your purchases from loved ones is another big red flag that might mean you have an unhealthy relationship to shopping. This doesn't just mean like your husband or your wife or your partner. This could be your roommate. This could be your parents. Like if you find that you're kind of sneaking packages in, or maybe you're like leaving them in your car, or maybe you're burying the box in the bottom of the recycling bin, or whatever the case may be, it might be a sign that you know you've gone overboard and you kind of just don't want the feeling of shame that typically comes from, sharing that information with somebody else. Another sign is that if you shop as a result of a temporary emotion. I think that it's really easy to fall into the habit of shopping if you are either trying to fill a void or maybe trying to lift your mood a little bit. And the real issue with this is that, of course, when you shop, you are only temporarily filling that void. So if you're sad or if you're feeling bored and you need some entertainment and you go shopping and you spend an hour or two online and then you place the order, you're still bored afterwards. Like maybe it gave you a little bit of excitement for a short amount of time, but I think it's about learning how to combat that boredom or combat those negative feelings with healthier habits, which again, consult a therapist. You'll be able to, come up with a game plan that way. But for me, it's reading. Like if I'm ever feeling bored, if I'm ever feeling like I want to head to the store or go online and shop, I typically will pick up my book, and that kind of helps dissipate the feeling of boredom in my brain. And I'm not a neurologist, so I don't really know why, but it helps for me. Another sign is that you are buying things that typically sit there unused. So if you go to buy something and you have all the intention in the world of actually putting it to use, but then once you bring it home, the excitement fades a little bit and it kind of just sits there in your closet collecting dust, that might be a sign that you might have some unhealthy shopping habits, and you might want to better understand how to identify items in your wardrobe that are actually going to serve you in the long run and that you'll actually want to reach towards more often. I have a video coming out, I believe 2 videos from now, if my schedule doesn't change by the time I'm recording this and the time I put it out. And it's gonna be about how to identify gaps in your wardrobe. So that might be helpful for you if you are somebody who is often buying things where you're like, this could definitely work in my wardrobe, and then you don't actually use it. Check out that video. I will link it above here once it's live. Another sign is that you are constantly being influenced to purchase by social media. If you find yourself scrolling TikTok or Instagram or even YouTube or anything like that, and you suddenly feel like you have to have something because somebody's talking about it online, it might be a sign that you have some unhealthy habits, not only with shopping, of course, but also with social media, and it's driving you to make these impulsive purchases. Social media also creates a false sense of urgency and comparison. I actually released a video a couple weeks ago about how social media is sabotaging our style. I will link it above here if you want to check it out and just get a little bit more detail on that. But I do think that the relationship between shopping and social media is a very interesting one. And I think that social media is often the culprit of our impulsive shopping habits. And the last sign that I want to talk about is that if you are in debt or you're maybe not able to save any money. I think where the problem lies with this is that oftentimes when purchases are small, but they're happening often, it's easy to justify, $20 here, $50 there, whatever the case may be, but all of those things add up at the end of the day. That can also drive anxiety for you to shop more. Like, even though it might not make sense, it eventually makes sense in our head if we're like, oh, I'm having anxiety about this thing, about my money, so the only way I feel like I can cope is to go shopping. And we're just not seeing where the repercussions come into play. So those are a few examples of some shopping habits that could potentially signal a deeper issue going on. And again, this isn't about shaming anybody. This is simply just pointing out some common signs and understanding that yes, change is possible. So let's dive into exactly how you can do that. So the first thing that I recommend you do is to take inventory of what you already have, especially in the category where you feel like you're kind of going overboard. Otherwise, you can just take a general inventory. So by going through your wardrobe or your home goods or any other category where you feel like you're going overboard and actually taking inventory of what you have is going to show you not only, of course, what you have, but it's also going to help you rediscover items that maybe you've forgotten about. This is something that will take a little bit of time and a little bit of effort, but I'm a big believer that if you want to work towards being a more intentional, more mindful shopper, it does take a little bit of effort, but it is well worth it. The next piece of advice I have for you is to ask yourself some key questions. The first question I like to ask myself is, how is this item going to make my life infinitely better? I love this question because for me at least, it helps assess the value add of the item. So is this item actually going to provide value within my life long term? Or is it just a fleeting hit of dopamine that I'm gonna forget about as quickly as it came? Another thing that I like to ask myself is, am I upset about something completely unrelated? And do I think that this item is going to fix that? If the answer is yes, I'm upset about something unrelated, and no, I don't think this is actually going to fix it, then it is not something that I consider worth investing in or even having a place in my life. Another question to reflect on is, would I feel embarrassed to share with somebody that I bought this item? If you're feeling uneasy about the potential of what someone might say to you, or how you might feel after sharing this item with somebody, then it's just not worth it. And another question that I like to ask myself is, do I already have a similar item that will perform the same? Because I think that a lot of the times we will buy things that are just a slightly different version of something we already own, which is where taking inventory really comes into play. A lot of this takes willpower. Like, it takes willpower to step away from a purchase, to step away from the dopamine that's coming your way if you were to own the item and purchase the item. So just understand that there's an extra step after all of these things that requires you to say, I have my answer, and the answer is no. My next piece of advice for you is to do a dopamine detox. I feel like it's so easy to get caught up in this instant gratification of buying things, especially in a world where we are constantly bombarded with ads and influencers and brands and all of these people saying, buy, 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 buy. Like, you have to own this thing. But I want you to know that it's okay to be bored. And I think that being bored is something we all need to be better at. And especially not acting on the boredom, if that makes sense. So you can delete your social media accounts. I know that's kind of a lot. I did it a few years ago and I stand by it to this day. The only social media I'm on is Reddit and obviously YouTube. If you don't want to do that, you can always just delete the app from your phone. I find that to be really easy. You can mute or unfollow certain accounts that are kind of triggering you to purchase. I also encourage you to unsubscribe from any promotional emails that you're getting quite a lot, and just give yourself a break and get yourself used to not being bombarded by all of these things. I'm living in this reality right now, and I have to be honest with you guys, it's fantastic. Like, I really enjoy not being on Instagram, not being on TikTok, and also feeling like I can settle my brain and not feel like I'm constantly looking for the next hit of dopamine. Another piece of advice I have for you is to conduct a no-buy. A no-buy period means committing to not purchasing anything outside of essentials for a certain period of time. So it could be, 3 days, it could be a week, it could be a month, it could be 6 months, whatever the case may be. That's what a no-buy is. I don't think that no-buys are for everybody, and I do think that sometimes they can be really difficult, but like that's the point, is you do want to retrain your brain that you don't have to go out and buy all these things, and it is okay just to buy the essentials. I do have a video on how to have a successful no buy. I will link it above here if you want more information on how to do that. There's also a no buy subreddit. I just love Reddit so much. So if you feel like you want a little bit of a bigger community to help you along the no buy, definitely check that out. And my last piece of advice for you is to find an accountability buddy. Having somebody to check in with to either help you stay on track or help you curb any random impulses to buy, I think is really helpful. Another Reddit suggestion for you: there's a subreddit called Shopping Addiction. It's fantastic. I really enjoy being a part of it. It's definitely helped me curb a lot of my impulses over the years. And they do have an accountability no buy check-in. It should be pinned at the top of the subreddit, I believe, the last time I checked. You can also go on Facebook and see if there's any shopping addiction groups that you can join and maybe find an accountability buddy there. But at the end of the day, I think the most important thing is just finding someone that you can confide in and finding someone that you can trust to kind of help you curb these impulses. All right, you guys, that is the end of the video. I know this was a lot of information, but I really hope it was helpful for you. And I hope it kind of just puts you on the right track to being a more mindful consumer. And I'm excited for you because I think that come a few months, a few years, you can look back at yourself and be really proud of all the work that you've done. And I say that because I sit here as somebody who feels that way. So good for you for doing this, and good luck. As always, thank you so much for watching. I am so appreciative of your support, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.